Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. This one's going to be a lot different. I'm just going to rant today. Obviously, if you've seen my last video, you know that I have not been having a great time with the Isle recently. And there are a multitude of reasons for that. I'm not saying I'm quitting the game. I'm not saying anything like that. That's not what this is. It's just me getting my thoughts out in today's video. That's the idea. That's what's gonna happen. So I hope you enjoy this rather chill video. I don't want it to be aggressive or not even that controversial, honestly. I'm mostly just airing concerns with the community in general, and so we're gonna just see how this goes today. So I have a few topics up that I'm going to talk about. The first one I want to talk about is the balance. Now, obviously, that's the video I just worked on most recently, and the current state of the Isle's balance is nothing short of horrible, and it's a completely avoidable issue. Now, the main problem is that Dondi, who is, of course, the lead developer of the game, is the person fully responsible for all of the game's balancing. Now, this is a problem for a few reasons. Number one, there should be more concerns that he has that are more important than balancing the game, as he is literally the creator of it. And number two, he doesn't play the damn thing, and that is the main concern. You see, typically, if you are going to balance a video game, it needs to be something that you are playing very often. You cannot just go around deciding what needs to change based on your little live streams where you play in a private server and never interact with anybody. Now, this should seem fairly obvious and not really like it needs to be something that needs to be said. However, this is where we're at, and it's very clear that the balance is suffering as a result. So obviously this is something that needs to be fixed, and until then, I don't see the balance improving whatsoever. And if anything, it's probably just going to get worse. And the main thing with this is bias. Now, when you have just one person working on anything, there is going to be a lot of inherent balance issues just with bias, because you don't have anybody to bounce your ideas off of. And so, especially Dondi does not like certain dinosaurs that are in the game. And that's very clear because they are either forgotten or nerfed into the ground in the current meta. We have Ceratosaurus, which can stunlock just about anything with one bite. And we have Carno, which has been nerfed into oblivion. So the only real carnivore that you can play as in terms of big carnivores is Cerato at the moment. We also have Dibble and Stego, which are completely unkillable by literally anything in the game. And Dibble was, for a short amount of time, actually fairly balanced, and after about 2 weeks that was changed. So that is a significant issue. And again, until Dondi is removed from that team, I don't see it changing. And that is incredibly discouraging for not only me, but a lot of people that play the game, especially people that play the game way more than I do. Yeah, it's frustrating, and it's something that's definitely making the community a little bit angry right now, understandably. And obviously don't like to see that. So that needs to change, number one. Number two, performance issues. They are still bad. They have improved recently, and I mean they've been improving them over time, but it doesn't seem to be like enough of a priority considering just how big of an issue it is. And that is very discouraging to see. In a game that is fairly hard on most computers, it's understandable that there are going to be frame drops and lag and issues like that. The main problem is that the game is built on spaghetti code, and so if you run something like Helldivers 2, you could have 8 million bugs and explosions going on and be on multiplayer with your friends. You're not going to have any issues. In the Isle, you can find one person on the map and it'll immediately drop your frames by half, and it will also make them lag around so much that you cannot fight them in any capacity. Now, that is obviously not the case for everybody, and most likely not the case for many of the developers, so they probably don't consider it to be very big of an issue. But most people do not have a NAS computer, and so they are not running the game very well whatsoever. And that is a big issue. And not one I feel like I need to bring up, but alas, here we are. The main issue for me in regards to performance is rubber banding. It has always been an issue, it has continued to be an issue, and it has only seemed to get worse over time. And that sucks. The Isle is an immersive game, and everything you do counts in a fight. If you make one mistake, you could be dead very, very easily. And there goes hours upon hours of your growth. And so, if people are spending all of this time doing this, it should not be that inconsistent at all. And I feel like the devs aren't prioritizing it as much as they should. Not only for, allowing people to actually play the game properly and fight, but also just for the way the game looks. It's a big issue. If you just see people rubber banding everywhere with your realistic dinosaur simulator, it doesn't really look all that realistic anymore. And so that can really put a lot of people off. And I don't blame them at all. So that's where we're at with that. Again, it's not like they aren't ever working on it. It is a known issue, but again, it doesn't feel like the devs care enough about it, and that is very discouraging and very unfortunate, and I hate to see that. Next, this is just a stupid little argument that I added in here. Omni. Why is Omni a thing? I don't know. Why they haven't turned it into Utahraptor and given it an actual interesting design, I don't know. Now, obviously, there are more important things to prioritize, much more important things. But I feel like they've kind of just embraced this mess of a creature that just looks like a Jurassic Park raptor and sounds like a Jurassic Park raptor and is the only legitimate fake animal in the game. And I feel like not enough people bring that up as an issue, but it's a huge consistency issue for me, and it really takes me out of the game when I see a Jurassic Park knockoff running around with dinosaurs that actually look pretty damn good for the most part. So that's just a small little gripe I have, but not a big one, not an important one. What is important is missing abilities. There are so many dinosaurs that have been forgotten by the devs, and this includes, and is not limited to, Hypsi's climb, Omni's climb, and Dryo's burrowing ability. Now, obviously, there are some issues with implementing some of these. For example, the burrows have always been an issue in terms of giving the game good performance when there are a lot of them. It can really become a mess. And so I know that is a known issue that won't get fixed overnight, and Dryo is simply not an important playable for a lot of people. I'd say mostly for that reason. And the main thing that's kind of unforgivable is the fact that because the balancing is so horrible, creatures like Dryo and Hypsi, they suck. I mean, they're horrible. And they're small tiers, and small tiers in general are not that good, and that's a whole separate issue that I'll talk about another time. But as of right now, Dryo is an utterly forgotten playable, and so are quite a few others. And I think that is really frustrating to see, as we really don't have that many in the game, and yet there are so many that are unfinished and forgotten, and I think that kind of throws a lot of people off. And so I think these animals need to be addressed, and their abilities need to be worked on so that they can actually be finished instead of just being half-assed and thrown into the game and then forgotten about, because, well, why would anyone want that? So that's a big issue. And then there's things like Hypsi climb and stuff like that, and it's like, we already have climbing in the game. I feel like it shouldn't be that hard to do. And that is out of maybe a place of ignorance. I don't know game design, I don't know how that works. But I feel like out of all the issues to be worked on, that would be such an easy one to solve, and it would give Hipsy obviously so much more to his kit and make it somewhat playable. And Omni also is supposed to have a bit of climbing, at least when it's younger, so don't see why they can't add that as well. So that's just another thing that's kind of been bothering me lately, especially since it's just been so long and none of these issues have been fixed. Next, I want to talk about pack hunting balance. Now, right in terms of like the actual in-game balance for all of these packs, there is none. It is up to servers to limit, obviously, pack numbers and how that works. But even if you do that, there's only so much of an inconvenience that people can have from overpacking. I think a really easy solution is to add diseases. This does not need to be a complex issue. It does not need to be a huge, big mechanic. It just needs to be a little something that makes it so that if you're in a group with a bunch of people, there's a very high chance that you get some kind of disease. And this will be something that's obviously easily like fixed with, you know, eating some kind of herb or some kind of plant or rolling around in mud, something like that. But I think that would be a pretty good countermeasure to a lot of those issues that are currently in the game with mega packs, which are kind of destroying the way that the game is balanced on top of everything else. And so if they add something like that, or at least just address it in some way, I think that could really, really help the game in general and make the community a lot happier. So that's an important thing that I'd want to have fixed, which is not being addressed by anyone, which is kind of concerning, because if this issue persists, I know it will only get worse. We have all these packy hordes running around. We now have Cerato hordes because they're so overpowered. We have huge Omni packs, and there is nothing that anybody can do about them. And yeah, it's kind of ruining the game right now for a lot of people, including myself. So yeah, if that could be fixed, that would be great. Next, I want to talk about Rex and Trike only being in community servers. Why the hell is that a thing that anybody thought would be a good idea? They are animals that are important to the game, that should be added to the game, and it is clear that all they want is to have Rex and Trike in the game, but they don't actually want to care to like balance them or add them properly. So like everything else they do, they're going to half-ass it and let players deal with the consequences. Now, community servers right now aren't that important. We don't have any modding, we don't have any kind of like actual interesting ways to change servers, not like Path Titans anyways. So I don't really personally see it as a huge issue because I just don't play these things as much, but for a lot of people it is a problem. And so if that could be fixed, that would be great. And it's hard for me to understand, because if you want Rex in the game so badly, just add the other dinosaurs that you need for it to be balanced around. They're working on Aloe and Maya, which are arguably the first proper mid-tiers, outside of Carno, which is really no longer a mid-tier at all. So that's fun. But anyways, if you just work on the game a little bit more, you can add them in fully and have it be completely fair and balanced. They're going to need to eat a lot of food, but they're going to be slower than just about everything. I don't see why it's an issue to add them into the proper game. All that does is prevent them from balancing things properly, which obviously is already a massive issue, and if anything, it will just keep people from actually playing on the real servers. And so it creates so many problems for no reason. It's just the devs half-assing something to half-ass it, and it's kind of pissing me off, and it's pissing a lot of people off. So yeah, that needs to be fixed. Next, Stego and Dibble are OP. Now obviously I've already gone over the balance, but this is kind of something else that I want to talk about in terms of there being, you know, two dinosaurs that just don't fit into the current meta of the game, and the other dinosaurs not being balanced around them. So apparently Carno was balanced for Aloe, and that's kind of how a lot of the dinosaurs are being balanced. But it only seems to affect the herbivores, and especially the larger ones, which again is a problem. They do not need to balance animals. I don't know why my screen is bugging out. But anyways, they don't need to balance animals around things that aren't in the game yet. That is so ridiculous on so many levels. And I don't understand why the devs feel the need to do it. I mean, it's ridiculous. Why would you balance something, which I'm sure they can change, it's just a number, they can literally just change that whenever the hell they want, around something that's months away? We don't even have a release date for Aloe. Not that we ever have release dates for anything, but it's baffling to me that that's even something that they'd consider. And yet, here we are. We have a Dibble that is completely OP and can't be killed by anything because it's supposed to be balanced around mid-tier. That's not in the game yet. And so it's just things like that where it's so frustrating. Because why? Just why is no one taking the time to think critically about these issues? It doesn't make any sense to me. And if somebody has a reason for it or can enlighten me, I'd love to hear it, truly. But I don't get it. I really don't. So, yeah, that's an issue. Obviously, Stego has always been an issue. It always will be. Until we get Aloe and Rex and Trike, which are only going to be in community servers, so good luck on the official servers still. But Stego is still OP. They're doing nothing to fix that, and they don't really need to, because I think Stego is probably fairly balanced for the game that's coming up, but they need to balance the game for what it is now. Just waiting for other things to fix the issues in the game is not really a good solution, I don't think, for anybody. So, I don't know, I'd love to see that fixed, or even addressed at all. If somebody can just look at Stego and say, how can we balance this so that it's not just a completely untouchable thing in the current game, that would be great. So yeah. Then we have the roster. This is more of a general concern, not really a relevant one right now. A lot of people think that roster bloat is not an issue. And I agree with some of the points made, but I also think the reason people believe that is because the points against it are not well put. Now, I have a video that discusses all of my issues with roster bloat and why it is a thing and why it exists, so I won't go too in depth here. But it's obvious to me already that the balance is horrible. And so if we just keep on adding all these creatures, I don't care if they just add them to community servers. That's only going to be more of a problem. It's just going to piss everybody off because you're not going to get all the favorite dinosaurs that you want in a server. It's annoying. We don't need to do that. It's just a stupid thing to try and fix. When we just have so many animals in the game that we can just axe and forget about, and it will probably piss off maybe 3 people, and then we can move on with our lives. But anyways, roster bloat is an issue. It's always been an issue. It's always going to be, in my personal opinion. And I wish more people would talk about it intelligently, or at least just think about the long-term concerns and not just thinking about the band-aids that the IL team would put up to fix it. Because that's exactly what they do. And so, if you have all these dinosaurs that need to be added, 1, the game will never be finished because everything still needs to be added, and that by itself is kind of an issue. 2, if you keep on adding dinosaurs with new abilities and new animations, every single update pretty much there's a new mechanic. So if you multiply that by all the new playables that's always going to be, getting added, it's going to take them forever. And it is valuable time that will be spent on playables that A, won't matter to a majority of people, and B, already exist in something else. For example, the fact that we're getting a Utah Raptor and we have an Omniraptor. I mean, what the actual hell? Just change the way Omniraptor looks. Nobody cares. Or at least I don't think anybody cares. And if they do, then suck it, I guess. I don't know. But anyways, it's just, you're multiplying all these issues. You're allowing the devs to then waste all this time on things that don't matter, even though everybody's always complaining about the fact that the game is not finished and there are so many mechanics that need to be added. That is only going to make it worse. And then there's the balancing. People say, hey, we can just have, certain species on different community servers, and that'll fix the whole problem. It's going to fix no problems, and it's going to cause 8 million more. If you have a server that has 50-something potential creatures, and they can pick whichever ones they want to not include, you are never going to find the server that you actually want to play on. And sure, maybe you can find one that has just enough of them and you can compromise and play on that server, but then you're dealing with all these different server rules. And not everybody wants to play on community servers. I don't want to. I don't like them. I think they're generally quite annoying. And so, again, you're just causing issues for people that don't need to exist. And then, with that, you have the obvious balancing issues if you include all of them into one server or on the officials. And it's the fact that you cannot balance them, because a lot of them are the exact same as each other or are inherently better than some of the other ones. For example, Alberto is, from what I've seen, just going to be better at pretty much everything than most of the other mid-tiers, other than maybe like Suko and Barry, because they have different roles. And so you've run into all these issues, and the devs have shown that they cannot be responsible for balancing even the small amount of playables we have right now. And even if you take into account all of the playables we have, that doesn't even there's 8 playables in the game that people actually use on a daily basis. And the other ones, unfortunately, just don't matter because people don't play them. And it is already a huge issue. And so if you have 50 playables and you're trying to balance all of them, it's not going to work, and it never will. And there's always going to be something that's overpowered, or there's going to be something that's really bad, and the devs are going to forget about it because they have 50 million other things to do. And so that's my issue with roster bloat, just a little rant. Again, I have a video that discusses it better and probably explains all my points better. But yeah, that's kind of it with that. Next up, I want to talk about the community. It's kind of been shit show recently. When is it not? But I think just the dialogue surrounding the Isle has been pretty damn bleak recently. And usually I would say that's really unwarranted. The devs are trying their best, because they are. It's true, they are people, they are trying. They aren't trying to make a shit game. That would be stupid to think. Nobody's ever trying to do that, and it's just hubris if you believe that. And so, usually I would say, give them a break. Let's just move on. But the current situation sucks. And so it's fair that people are quitting the Isle and getting really mad at the Isle. Again, don't harass people. Don't be a dick for no reason. That's never going to get anyone anywhere. But I feel like the devs have not really been responding to a lot of the criticism recently, and have kind of just let everything get worse. And I don't understand where that's coming from. Usually they're confrontational, or they listen and they start fixing stuff. And this level of just ignoring the community entirely, I haven't personally seen it before, and I think it's rather concerning to see. Because if they just kind of keep up this practice while the game is in such a horrible spot, I can only really see it getting worse. So that's another issue. And in general, a lot of the content obviously surrounding the game has always been pretty positive. I think all the YouTubers in the space are really wonderful people, and I'd say for the most part, we have a lot to provide for the game. We are typically going to be the people that care about it the most, in the most positive light. We are going to be people that play it the most and have more experience than others. Obviously, for the most part, there are people that have way more experience with the game, way more hours than I do, and are more capable of speaking on things intelligently than me. I am fully aware of that. But for the most part, the IO community and the content creators around it, I think, are quite valuable. And I'm not really even speaking for myself here. I'm just like a little commentary channel. It's not like I have much that's super relevant at any time or any really great information to add. But there are other people like Kuga who does all these testing with all the new updates and horde tests, and they provide lots of really good information there with how the game is balanced. You have people like Kingfisher who are very positive and talk about the game in a very good light, who also have good criticisms and good takes. And there are tons of people like that. Like there's Orny, there's Player Zero. There are so many people in this community that are trying their best all the time. And I think you'd be hard pressed to find one of them that doesn't feel kind of left out and kind of feeling like their opinion doesn't matter. And I mean, to be honest, that is the case. Our opinions don't matter. And as long as I've been uploading, which has only been a year, but still a year is pretty good. And there are people who've been uploading way longer than I have, who just aren't really respected, I don't think, by the devs, and are kind of just thrown aside as if, we're just random people that just want views. We're not doing it for the views. This is the Isle. The Isle is, in general, a pretty freaking irrelevant game. In fact, I actually tried starting another YouTube channel, focusing on Star Citizen, which is a game I somewhat equally enjoy. And, well, let's just say I got 5,000 views on my first 2 videos without even trying. That could never happen with the Isle. It is so much easier to get views and to get money from other channels and other videos talking about other things. We are only here because we care about the game. That is the only reason. And so for the devs to ignore us so often and just treat us like we don't even exist, it's discouraging. And obviously you guys have seen me take breaks from YouTube. There are plenty of other people in the space who have taken breaks from the Isle, and understandably so. It's very hard to stay motivated and talk about things that you care about when the people involved don't care about your input at all. And I can't even imagine what it's like for other community members who don't really have the ability to get into touch with people in the same way, or be able to have their opinions reaffirmed in the same way, because that's just how the algorithm works. People that agree with you are going to find your algorithm and agree with you all the time. So for people that are just playing the game regularly and don't have even the same things that content creators do, I mean, I can't imagine how infuriating that is and discouraging that is. And so it's just, I think it's a significant issue, and it's hard to talk about it in a way that doesn't sound self-righteous or it's hard to talk about it. But I think even just not even talking about myself, but just other content creators, it's clear that the devs could get a lot out of just listening to people, or at least interacting with them. I mean, just seeing people comment would be great. That isn't horrible. I mean, I've seen some devs comment on YouTube videos that are very well structured and well put, and they've just put the most rancid shit I've ever seen in a comment section, legitimately. And it's unacceptable behavior to act like that to people who care so much about your game. There's not many of us anymore, to be honest. I mean, big YouTubers don't cover the game anymore, and so the people that are left, I mean, we're really working with not a whole lot, but we're trying our best. And so it would be great to just see a little bit more encouragement and recognition from the devs, and to see them recognizing and encouraging community members in general to just talk about the game, critique the game, and think of ways to improve it, and have some kind of dialogue surrounding that. And the fact that the game has almost none it sucks. It really, really sucks. And it's hard to be motivated with that. And that lack of motivation can only cause the game to become more irrelevant and for people to stop covering it even more. And I mean, that can only be a bad thing. So that's another big issue that I want to talk about. Now, in terms of the current state of the game, I feel like I've covered everything that I wanted to. And there are a lot of things that I'm excited about. I know that Barry is kind of coming soon-ish, probably. Astra's had a lot of work done. A lot of models have been completed and skins, and it's really encouraging to see that. It's really great to see all of this progress being made. And I'm hoping at least that next year is going to have a lot more in terms of like general content than this year did. But then on the flip side of that could also be kind of concerning, because there hasn't been a ton of talk of fixing a lot of the issues, and even though I'm really glad the devs are really excited to add all of these mechanics, which for the most part have been really, really great. A lot of people don't like them, but I personally have really liked a lot of the changes they've been making. Outside of, lots of obvious stamina and balance issues and things like that. But yeah, for the most part, the game is improving with each update. But if we haven't seen a lot of talk about how they're going to fix current issues or address them, then it leaves room to kind of worry and think, well, how is the game going to handle all of these changes? And is it going to be able to put up with all of these new additions? And it's rough. It might be rough, because right now it's rough. And so there's only so much that we can really do and say, because at some point it's just being ungrateful. But I do think it's a valid concern that the devs don't talk about the current issues more, and I'd love to see that change. I'd love to just see more general kind of awareness for what the community is thinking about and talking about and worrying about. And if even just one dev was like, hey, we hear you, we know your criticisms are fair, we're working into it, then that would be great. That's really all I'm asking for there. But because we don't really see it enough, or honestly at all, it is something to worry about for me. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of mostly what I wanted to talk about today. I know it's a long-winded rant. I apologize if it wasn't all that coherent. But yeah, I just wanted to get some stuff off my chest. Again, I'm not saying that I'm quitting the IL or not. This isn't me, being done with everything. It's just my general concerns because I care about the game, and I want to see it in the best possible spot that it can be in. And I really loved just kind of being with the community and talking with people, and I feel like it's in a really good spot in general. And so I would hate to see it wasted with poor decision making on the devs side of things. So yeah, that's where we're at. Thank you for watching. Thank you for putting up with this video. And I will get back to my usual content as soon as possible. This is just a one-off kind of thing. If you do want to see more of these, like, kind of longer rant style... Damn it, I just got eaten again. If you want to see more of these kind of long style videos, then obviously I will do them. So let me know what you think, and I will catch you all in the next one. So, yeah, have a wonderful day, bro.